So let's start with the big story that we're tracking on WION at this hour, where in a bid to try and ease tensions, the Indian and the Chinese foreign ministers held discussions that were aimed at seeking a resolution to the prolonged border crisis in Ladakh. Now, the talks between the Indian Foreign Minister S. Jaishankar and his Chinese counterpart Wang Yi reportedly lasted for about 2 hours. The discussion between the two sides was termed as frank and constructive. Both the countries have now reached a 5-point consensus to guide their approach to the situation on the line of actual control. Now, firstly, both sides will continue to take guidance from talks between the leaders. The assessment was a clear reference to the decisions taken by the Prime Minister Narendra Modi and Chinese President Xi Jinping in their two informal summits in 2018 and 2019. Now, secondly, the focus will be on quick disengagement of troops to ease the tensions. Now, thirdly, India and China will abide by all the agreements and protocols to maintain peace. Fourthly, the dialogue will be through a special representative mechanism. And lastly, both the sides will boost confidence-building measures. Now, according to government sources, the Indian side has highlighted its strong concern at the massing up of the Chinese troops and the equipment along the line of actual control. Now, India has also called for an urgent resolution, saying that incidents in Ladakh have impacted the development of bilateral relationship between India and China. And to give us more perspective on what these talks actually mean, we're joined in by WION's Siddhant Sibil, who's joining us live on this broadcast. Good morning to you, Siddhant. So it appears that there is some kind of a breakthrough that has been arrived. There is a 5-point formula that has been agreed to by S. Jaishankar and his counterpart. Give us a sense of, what this actually means, and does it mean that from here on we would see a gradual disengagement beginning in Ladakh, or is it too early to speculate on that front?
Well, Mohammed, it's a major breakthrough which has happened in Moscow. It's just past 7 a.m. here in Delhi, and they has just started. But this is a very positive development when it comes to India-China relationship in last 4 months, because both sides have ultimately agreed for a joint statement. Something that two sides agree to jointly means that both sides are willing to come up with a consensus, and just to make sure that the consensus which emerged after the informal summits in Wuhan and Chennai are taken forward. In fact, the 3 Ds have emerged in the joint statement, the 5-point joint statement that has been released by both Beijing and New Delhi jointly, that focus on dialogue, distance between the two forces, and disengagement. Remember, India has been talking about disengagement as a prerequisite for anything, and the bone of contention has been the northern bank of the Pangong Lake from Finger 4 to Finger 8, where the Chinese have consolidated their position, and this is something that has been a cause of worry and concern for New Delhi. India has been saying for almost 4 months now that the Chinese need to go to their side of LAC, but they haven't moved. In fact, there have been provocative measures by the Chinese in last few days we have seen. But by and large, if we look at the joint statement, this is a positive development, and the Indian government sources told WION that the Indian External Affairs Minister in the 2-hour-long meeting that took place in Moscow yesterday night strongly raised the matter of the build-up by the Chinese, saying it's violative of the agreement between India and China in the past.
Absolutely indeed, Siddhant. Now, this is a positive development. The fact that there is a joint statement by both the Indian and the Chinese side points towards the fact that, there are some constructive talks that are taking place. But the fact of the matter is, China started its strategy of salami slicing. It's been going on for quite some time. And the status quo ante that existed in the month of April, will the Chinese, go back to that? Or what are we looking at? Because at this point of time, the Chinese are saying that, yes, talks should take place, discussions should take place, disengagement should happen. But they're not talking about moving back their forces to the status quo that existed before the month of April.
Well, Mohammed, last time such an agreement was agreed to was on 6th of of June, when both sides, the corps commanders had met. That was the first corps commander meeting that took place on 6th of June. That the disengagement process needs to be started. But thereafter, we saw the Chinese going back against their promises. But remember, at that time, the consensus that was achieved, there was no paper, there was no joint statement. It was just government sources from both Beijing and New Delhi saying that they have arrived on this consensus. This time it is different, primarily because now there is a joint release. This release is on the government websites of both the Chinese Foreign Ministry and the Indian External Affairs Ministry. So if the Chinese go back against their stated commitment in the meeting that happened yesterday, then this is the paper that shows that how the Chinese went against, despite agreeing to something jointly with the Indians, because joint statement basically means both sides agreeing to a certain fact, and the fact is that disengagement is something that is a fact on ground, and this needs to be followed by both New Delhi and by Beijing. So this is the difference this time around. And will the Chinese agree to it? As of now, it looks like, given the fact that it's now a publicly stated commitment by Beijing, right. And if they do not agree, this of course goes against Beijing, how Beijing has gone against its commitment. So clearly this is a breakthrough on paper, on ground, something we haven't seen in the last 4 months.
All right, we'll have to leave there. Thank you very much indeed, Siddhant, for joining us and getting us all those updates. It remains to be seen as to how the Chinese conduct themselves from here on, and whether there will be actual disengagement on the ground in Ladakh.